Hey, football freaks, it's Alan. Just want to take the time here to let you know that this week's show is brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. If you're thinking of doing a podcast, there is a way for you to do a show without having to become an audio editing master, a production whiz kid. You can just go to prettyeasypodcast.com and get your own personal producer at a very, very low cost. That'll be someone who can guide you, assist you, help you out with whatever you need to get your podcast off the ground. If you have an idea or a topic you want to talk about on a weekly basis, a daily basis, it doesn't matter. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com. Get started today. Take some of the hassle of starting a podcast off your shoulders and let the audio professionals at Pretty Easy Podcasts help you out. Pretty Easy Podcasts is where podcasters go to get their shows recorded and posted with a complete podcast studio at their disposal. Record from home or your office or anywhere, really. Pretty Easy Podcasts caters to your schedule and gives you a producer for your show at your beck and call. Go to prettyeasypodcasts.com, sign up today, be heard, have some fun podcasting, and don't let a lack of technical knowledge hold you back. Go to prettyeasypodcasts.com today.
This is the future. This is not the past.
The new XFL will kick off in 2020.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
It's still football, but it's professional football reimagined.
This is our moment, our story to tell. This is history begun.
This is the XFL.
Welcome, football fans. This is the week of September 29th, 2019. This is the road to 2020, and this is the XFL Show. I'm Alan.
I'm Jake.
I'm Vince.
And I'm Bryant.
This week, future XFL players showed that they are ready to join the league on social media. And with the XFL draft drawing near, the anticipation is off the charts for everybody as the league revs up to kickoff, which we are only 19 weeks away from. 19 weeks. And I just get the sense, Jake, that this week, right now, this moment, we're closer than ever to kickoff.
Closer than ever. We're making history once again. February 2020 is really creeping up on us.
It is. It's. I wouldn't even say creeping up, though, actually. I would say it's about to explode right at us. It's forcefully coming towards us. It's like
you usually creep, so you get the best reaction, I think.
This feels like a locomotive this week. I don't know. This is like your last week to catch your breath, I think, because we've got big things coming, especially in the month of October. I feel like we're going to get a lot of action going with the draft nearing, like we said, and we're going to get into all that this week. But I don't know about you, Bryant. I know you have a great sense of smell, but this week, for the first time, I could smell the XFL coming this week. I could smell the flashing light bulbs from pictures being taken at the draft. I could smell footballs and pigskin leather and all that being made. I don't know. Is there something in my basement, or is this the XFL drawing near?
Alan, what's going on in your kitchen that you're smelling? What is XFL? I don't know. Anyway, we are that close, Alan. We are 19 weeks. We hit the teens, ladies and gentlemen. February is going to be here before we know it. So much going on. Everywhere you turn, there's a lot of football happening. So I'm really excited for right now.
This is a very, very, I'm going to say, important week for anybody who really needs to brace for all the action that's about to come our way. I'm telling you, Vince, right now is the time to settle in, make sure your cardio's set, make sure you're going to, be able to keep up, because it's going to be really ferocious here pretty soon. And this week already kind of was a lot of rumor, at least this week, that we're going to talk about, but it's already an action-packed week, and this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, we're getting ready for this big draft that, we think is going to be happening next month. And I'm hoping that we're going to have a list of all the players that are going to be in the draft pool to really study that. And, once that draft happens, we're going to be breaking down all the rosters, the players, the coaches, their schemes, game plans.
Yes.
It is just going to be nonstop preseason training camp football from October until we kick off in February of 2020. It is going to be one wild ride.
I cannot wait for X's and O's and all the other stuff to come along you mentioned there, Vince, but especially the X's and the O's. That is going to be fantastic. We'll be able to do that when players are on teams, which is going to be coming up pretty soon. Before we get into everything for this week, we'll look back at the week that's gone by us. And last week's show, a lot of talk about bad boys. I think safe to say, Bryant, nobody wants Antonio Brown in the XFL.
Not one person, not even Antonio Brown wants Antonio Brown. I mean, it's you can't have this guy anywhere close to your league. Jake, Vince, unless your mind has changed since last week, all of us on this show are still saying no way. But he's going back to school, so it's all good. He's not interested in football right now anyway.
Which is always a good decision, I think, Vince. Going back to school, get your degree if things don't work out for you in one realm. There, you could always fall back on a solid education at Central Michigan University.
Yeah, unless a big time company like Kodak comes calling for you, then maybe you
got tough decisions to make. Then
I don't know. You think Antonio Brown's gonna become like a professional photographer? Is that what you're alluding to?
No, I thought photo developer, I think is what you were.
Yeah, I could see him, wearing a long white jacket, working in a dimly lit room.
Really bizarre rumors you're spreading about AB, which he doesn't need anymore.
No, I wasn't. No, I was just saying in general.
Yes,
about
okay.
Education.
Yeah, education is good. I think we can all agree on that. Also, this past week, if you were anywhere near a radio, a television set, or in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you definitely caught Bob Stoops talking to somebody about the XFL. He was everywhere this week, and safe to say he was out there hashtag raising hell, Jake. Bob Stoops was even on the Texas Rangers broadcast for like an entire inning discussing the XFL, which was really cool to see.
Well, yeah, you gotta hype the team. I'm sure there were some viewers out there that were, watching the Rangers game that didn't even know about this XFL league making a comeback. So yeah, he wants, high octane offense, things that we've seen from the collegiate days. And he's probably going to get Landry Jones to do it.
Now, Vince, I have a question real quick. Since you're a diehard Dallas fan here, I thought it was raising hell between hash marks. Am I wrong with that? Why is he raising hell outside of the hash marks?
Well, in this Hal Bummy offense, we attack, outside and inside.
Alan, have we even said we with the LA Wildcats? I don't even think we say we. Look at how dedicated and where's your Renegades tattoo at, Vince? You can tell us.
No, I was just referring to Hal Mummy offense.
Well, I don't know if I'm ready to say we, because there are all these boxes you got to check if you want to be a part of the LA Wildcats. I want to make sure that I fit the criteria of what Coach Winston Moss wants in an LA Wildcat. I don't know if anybody caught this, but I saw it on the Instagram link you sent me, Bryant, from the LA Wildcats. Coach Winston Moss laying it out there exactly what he's looking for from anybody who's going to play for him in the LA Wildcats.
They got to be team first. Got to be team first. If you don't put yourself first in front of the team, you're out the door. Second, you got to be competitive. We want guys that are going to come in and compete. But you're also going to have to be able to be creative and innovative. You're going to have to be able to think. What Norm Child and what Pep Johnson is going to put together in collaboration with myself, we got some good going.
I feel like I fit that criteria, Brian. I don't know about you. The only tough part might be keeping up with the mind and innovation of Norm Chow, but man, they got it cooking with the LA Wildcats.
It takes just as much work to be that man's friend. I'll tell you that much too right now. Winston Moss knows what he wants. I'm telling you guys, if you get the chance to meet this man, and I'm telling Vince, Jake, and Alan this, you're going to fall in love with this guy because his intensity level is up to 100, and he'll welcome any player. He's going to expect so much of you.
I've seen how he's welcomed people. I'm not sure I want to mention your name.
But what more would you expect from a player? I guess you could say, hey, what would Bob Stoops want from a player? I would assume the same things, but really it's kind of cool to see Winston Moss out there telling people, if you want to play for this team, this is what you got to do.
Well, Bob Stoops was out there saying he's looking for several quarterbacks he has his eyes on during that Rangers broadcast, and he said that it's going to be a similar offense to what he ran at Oklahoma. He did not drop any censor bleeps on that broadcast. Coach Winston Moss, he's not about that. He's just about following what his criteria is and winning, because as we all know, LA stands for excellence, Vince.
I didn't know that.
LA stands for excellence.
You better recognize.
Now I do.
You better. Winston Moss, oh my goodness. My bold prediction for 2020, if I'm wrong on everything else, I know for sure I'm going to be right on this. By the end of that season and the end of the year next year, Winston Moss is going to be America's favorite head coach in all of sports. How could he not be? With quotes like that and the personality he's been putting on display in a limited capacity, Jake. He's not even on a giant platform like ESPN or Fox yet. Just imagine.
I think the bigger question here is, what's the over under for how many games before he puts on a set of pads and gets in there? Because it's inevitable from everything I'm hearing. A player coach.
I don't know. Do you think he's, him the
Training
best?
Camp.
You know him
Training
the best, Brian. Do you think he's one of those coaches who's going to headbutt a player with no helmet on?
He's intense. I will say that, but no, I don't think he's going to do that much. Jake, he's super involved. He was hyped during the summer showcase when I saw him there. His intensity level, like I said, is at 100, and it's really going to trickle down to his players. He might be the best personality that the XFL has going into 2020.
He knows what it takes to build a great and competitive football team.
Coach Winston Moss, Coach Bob Stoops, Pep Hamilton, everybody's out there talking up what they're looking for from their players, because their players are watching as well. Not only are fans keeping an eye out, but these players are out there keeping an eye out on everything. Their mailboxes, their emails, the coaches in the media, they are all getting ready, because they need to know what they're getting into. Vince, these players are about to make some life-changing decisions, sign life-changing contracts, and be a part of something big here in each of the 8 XFL cities. And, man, we might even know when those dates are occurring, because we've got some rumors to touch upon in this week's Cover 2. But before we go to the Cover 2, we do need to remind Brian, all of our general patrons and prospective general patrons on our Patreon, how great the content is on This Is the XFL Show's Patreon page.
Yeah, Alan, Patreon is where it's at right now. We got so much going on. We have this month's bonus show for the month of September. We're going to be breaking down way too early predictions, it sounds like, and we're going to be talking about some players. We got some. This is not the XFL show. That's always weekly there. We're talking NFL and college football. It's really just jam-packed. Plenty to happen, especially with the draft coming up. Exclusive coverage from Vince. I'm sure Jake will be there as well. Don't forget, Jake also broke down some of your concepts a couple weeks ago. That's still very relevant as of right now. So go ahead and check it out. Patreon.com/This Is the XFL Show. Plenty of free stuff there as well. So really no reason not to go there. Again, that's Patreon.com/This Is the XFL Show.
Don't need no credit card to ride that train? No, wait, you do, actually. To sign up, you do, or a PayPal account. You do actually need a credit card for This Is the XFL Patreon, but not that much, because there are multiple tiers you could choose from $3 all the way on up, right, Bryant? We've got different content for each tier. If they want to go all out, they can, and maybe even be a part of the show. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you could get into on our Patreon. It is multiple, like a good Hal Mummy offense.
You can even get this show a whole day early and commercial free. Yes, Alan, for just $3, you can get started. There's so much there. I really can't stress it enough. If you love this show, you're going to love our Patreon, patreon.com/This Is the XFL Show. Check it out. Absolutely free to check it out. It doesn't cost you money to click.
That's the best
Bring your
part.
credit card on this train.
But do bring the credit card if you want to stay on the train. And we'll see you there on This is the XFL Show's Patreon page.
Going for two. Go for two and the lead.
We'll go into it, and first, right out of the gates, state this. The letter that's circulating on social media, the news coming out about the exact XFL draft dates are not officially announced by the league yet. These are kind of reports from some websites, also people putting out there on social media, but there's nothing official about these. So we're going to take these all with somewhat of a grain of salt discussing it, but there's a lot of interesting information in this letter that is out there, and it says it's from Oliver Luck. It says, "Dear player," at the top of it, which is also, Vince, I know you and I saw that and said, well, wait a minute, let's not give full credit to this thing yet, because you need multiple sources. You got to check all those boxes. But the fact that it says October 15th and October 16th for the draft, a 2-day event in this letter, is an interesting thing to consider. In the middle of a week, a 2-day affair where 70 players are going to be drafted per team. So you would think that this thing's going to be more than just 1 day. Yeah,
you would think so with how many teams and players are going to be drafted. I mean, going back, it's dear player. Player is in all caps. I'm not quite sure what that means. I mean, some of this information, could be legitimate. It's got some aspects that we've talked about. It talks about the Team 9 that Bryant is really familiar with. It talks about the kickoff and when the games are going to be and the channels and that kind of stuff. But still, I don't know if I'm totally on board with this, but it seems reasonable.
It does. And the thing is, like, if it is made up, then I would have hoped, Jake, that whoever made this letter up, if it's not an official document, again, it's not confirmed 100%, but I would have hoped if someone made it up, they would have put a lot more wacky stuff in there. This all seems too legitimate and real. I would have thrown something ridiculous in there, like, you'll all be made to, I don't know, whoever could jump over a moat will be admitted into the XFL draft, and you have to come to Stamford and have the secret password. I don't know. They could have put a bunch of wacky stuff in there. That's why this thing looks somewhat legitimate.
New England clam chowder.
Is that the red or the white?
I always forget.
That's the white. That's the white. Trust me, I know.
Yeah, you're right. It is a little. I don't know if mundane. I mean, mundane sounds bad, but it is what you would expect to see, I guess. And Vince, I'm not sure if these things could just be mass sent out. I'm not sure if they need to be personalized.
I would hope Oliver
for
Luck,
every individual.
I would hope they would.
I would hope Oliver Luck would have him or someone working at the league would have at least typed up different names for each letter. That'd make it a little personal.
Oh, well, you guys are not too familiar with like worded stuff. You don't even have to type up people's names anymore. You could just put like a list in and it does it automatically.
Yeah,
right.
Really,
I mean, you're dealing with you're dealing with agents and things of that sort. They could be a little bit more official.
If I got this, I would just be, pleased as a peach. I don't care if it's addressed to me or not, as long as it came from my P.O. box.
I will say this. The commissioner's invitations did come addressed to the player themselves.
They did. They did. And in this letter, we could break it down a little bit more. So it does say October 15th, a Tuesday, and Wednesday, October 16th, are the 2 days for the draft. Says it'll be a 70-player per team affair, so 70 picks for each team. Also in the letter, it says there's a 16-day mini camp, which we have heard of, going down in December, starting December 3rd. And the mini camp portion is interesting. I actually want to read that here because it says all players drafted next month and retained by their XFL teams will be required to attend a 16-day mini camp starting December 3rd. 2019, your travel, lodging, and meals for minicamp will be provided by the XFL. Upon arrival at minicamp, all players will complete a medical examination and will execute a player contract. So that is the day, December 3rd, when they arrive, that they get to sign their player contracts, and then they'll be paid starting the first day of minicamp on a subsequent biweekly basis if they remain on an active roster or IR through the end of the league year, which is May 31st, 2020. So players start getting paid December 3rd, according to this letter, all the way through May, Vince.
Yeah, which I suppose they should be. If you're on the ball club. So again, that's another thing that's seems logical.
And another interesting thing there, because there's been speculation on how these contracts would be paid out, and that kind of sums it up there, December through May. And if you're again talking to someone about how these XFL players are getting paid, and if they're talking about someone maybe combat you at the bar, Brian, who's like, well, these guys aren't going to get paid that much. That's not worth their time. If you tell them, well, what if I offered you $100,000 and all you'd had to do was work between December and May, and you get it all then throughout that time frame? That's pretty nice. It's a pretty sweet deal and pretty worth it.
We even $60,000 for that time frame is more than more than I make in a year, probably, if I do the math out. But it is kind of an interesting. There is some holes that we could probably poke into this. Like, why would the XFL wait until December to actually officially sign these players to contracts? Seems like they can go away to the NFL. Remember, the NFL has that rule that if you are signed to play football somewhere else, you can't play in the NFL. But are they signed until December? I guess that's a weird aspect of this whole thing. But it really has fallen in line in terms with the timelines that we've kind of been listening and hearing these last couple months. But if you're a player, this is exciting. I mean, this is being real. You have a fixed date as to when you're possibly going to be joining a team. Now, Alan, I think 70 players per team. Doing the math here, there's going to be 52 players per roster plus team 9. That equals 456 players. So 70 times 8 is 640, I want to say. So
team 9's a 40-man roster, so they're going to be a little bit more restricted in that regard. Whereas all the other teams, 52-man rosters, 46 eligible according to the letter on game days. It also has a training camp period between January 4th and January 21st. Again, this is not officially announced to be, by the league. They haven't confirmed on social media or their website any of these details, but we've all assumed the general time frame would be, middle of October. We've all known about roster sizes for a while. We've known about mini camps and training camps in those general time frames. So this is all kind of information they've alluded to, and this letter comes out. And if it is indeed a fake letter, shame on someone for doing that and sending this to players if they did. That's just rude, Jake. That's called catfishing.
This is all alleged. Okay, I know we said it at the top, but I want to continue to stress that. It seems legit, but this is very new, at least to whenever we're recording this. So I don't know what else,
Well, can I play devil's advocate then?
I don't want to be too invested in this.
I know. Well, I know you. I know Jake especially doesn't want to invest in this for sure. But I'm pretty invested. I will say I think it's all on the level. But if I am poking one hole in it, Bryant, I know you're about to go into something here. I don't know if this is what you're going to touch upon, but at the end, it does say one last important note. If an XFL player receives a written offer to sign with an NFL team after the conclusion of the XFL postseason, we will support that opportunity. I know the XFL has stated, Oliver Luck has stated in public that is an approach the league will take, but to put that in the letter seems like it didn't need to be there, but it's a courtesy maybe that if they actually did that.
Well, if you're a player, don't you want to know that, hey, what happens if after this I want to go back to the NFL and try out? Can I? But you would think you would already know that. It also, to me, says NFL team is a little interesting, because I feel like he'd want to just say if he'd want to play with another professional team. To throw NFL in there might be a little weird. But either way, what I was actually going to go towards, Alan, is let's assume this entire letter is 100% accurate, that this is what players were receiving. This is what players are getting ready for. Can you poke any holes into this plan? Do you feel like anything's a little too far-fetched, too long? Is training camp not close to when the start of the season is supposed to be? Anything like that you guys can think of?
No, I think it's all a solid timeline. It all makes sense in terms of that, the period of time and the biweekly basis players get paid from December to May. I think this is all well put together, and I'm hyped. And also, I just wish there was more information on what the Team 9 team identity is going to be. Vince, what's the name of Team 9 and the logo? I'm sorry.
I
had to do that.
I've said Bryant knows way more about that Team 9 than I do. But I will say one thing I don't like about this, and we've talked about this on the program before. You could go back in the archives, especially if you've subscribed to This Is the XFL Show on many different podcast platforms. It says that the training camp is going to start on January 4th, 2020. And Alan, you have been, very vocal about players, signing after the NFL season, which is after that. It seems like to me, if you want to put the best product on the field, you want to have good, crisp football. It's all about the quality of the play. You want to get these guys in this training
quality
camp
of the
as
play.
soon as you can. Are you really going to wait until, after the training camp starts?
That's gonna be a case by case basis, though, Vince. I think you can afford to assimilate a handful of elite players into the league a little bit later. So, say guys aren't available until the end of January, or even when the season starts, NFL teams pick up players mid-season all the time. I don't know why the XFL can't do that.
I guess. I mean, are you really going to be making big exceptions for Paxton Lynch to get on your ball club?
Well, okay. So the last week of the season is 12/29. That's the last day of the season. Alan, you've mentioned before that the games, week 17 is over. Practice squads are gone, right? That Monday is Black Friday, not just for Black Monday, not just for coaches, but for also for players. So there's a possibility within those 4 days, Vince, that some players can sign with an XFL team.
But what if you're on a team that's still in the playoffs?
You cannot wait until after the Super Bowl to add somebody to your roster.
Yeah.
I know that, but what if?
Totally think you can. It's sports.
No, you
add
players.
Get off that. No, you add players mid-season all the time in literally every.
When was
league.
the last time you added a key player that was not like a trade, just a free agent that you found on the street that you could bring onto your team?
Well, this is a different situation. The players on the street, and you're in the middle of an NFL season, are not going to be able to contribute to your team the way a player on the street and you're an XFL team might be able to do, because that player on the street might have just got off of an NFL roster. It might be Michael Crabtree, and he might be able to. He might be in training camp.
He's off a roster.
It probably depends on what street you find him on.
Listen, what nobody's talking about is January 4th is a very busy day, as it is right now. So I think that date is bogus. I'll just say that much.
I don't know about that. It makes sense.
A lot of people are going to be tired the next morning. You don't want to be getting up and doing a lot of athletic activities.
I feel like I have to at least shine a light on that reference, Jake, for a lot of our listeners, that you are a gigantic Japanese wrestling fan, and that is, of course, the biggest day on the calendar year in the land of the rising sun for the sport.
The question is will Jake be done with Wrestle Kingdom by the time training camp's over? That's the question.
He might be. The question is Jake going to really be doing the show from Japan whenever we're talking training camp, Jake? Yeah, I hope you get a good connection when you go. If you go, I don't know. This letter, we've poked holes through it. It seems pretty safe to say that most, if not all of it, is legit. It is funny that it came out and is being reported by some of the websites that they're following the XFL. It's being posted on social media, but there is no player attribution. There's no agent who referenced. There's nothing like that, at least that we could find as of full disclosure Thursday night of this recording. Who knows? Maybe I'll add in a little disclaimer after the fact if anything comes out before the show posts, Bryant. But we did our due diligence just to see if anyone was going to cite a source or anything on this, and the league is not referencing this letter at all just yet, because they've got their way of doing things. They've got announcements to do, and they're going to do them big and bold and make everything exciting. So that makes sense from their standpoint too.
Yeah, and so if you go back to the commissioner invitations, those letters came out after Oliver Luck came on camera and said, hey, we're going to be sending out commissioners' invitations. So it is a little bit weird for this to come out, but again, we're trying to take it as face value, maybe, but it's close enough to where we can probably assume that it's going to be similar enough that we're legitimately talking about it. But yes, just hold your horses, everyone. This information will come out soon enough, and the XFL will confirm all this or not, probably in the next week or so.
Yep, I'm sure we'll be hearing it very, very soon. At least some of the details that are in this letter as official bits of information from the league themselves. Remember, that's always a good way of going about things. At least with the startup of the league, until you're able to get more and more people covering it and being able to cite sources and whatnot. Right now, we do have to take the league at its word for all these kind of big announcements and let them do their thing as we build up to 2020. And then when more outlets like ourselves and of course ESPN and Fox are going to get into the mix, then you're going to have a lot more coverage, a lot more verification on issues like this. But this letter is out there, and it's fun to pick apart at least and have a little bit of fun with it, which might have actually been better than the official word coming out, Jake, because we got to reference January 4th in a different kind of way there and talk Team 9. I like it when it gets a little goofy that way.
Yeah, it's always speculative. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm sure by the time we talk to you next week, I can guarantee you we'll be closer to the beginning of the season. But I also think we're going to find out if this letter is indeed real or not.
And you know what? So far, Jake, you are 100% on all those guarantees you've made about us getting closer to kickoff each and every single week. I don't know how you do it.
It's a skill.
All right, our next part of our cover two is, I know Bryant's going to get a little upset about this because this is like very subtle bragging, very subtle, not trash talk, but just kind of jockeying for position, especially in XFL West. But Ryan Gustafson, who is a very active president among the XFL presidents, the Seattle Dragons president, he's been everywhere. He's doing his thing on local TV and radio, and even on his own Facebook and on the team Facebook. He's doing a cool thing. I think it's cool. It's called the Seat at the Table Chats, and he's bringing fans into the fold. It's basically a Q&A type deal where he takes the questions from fans and answers them honestly about the Seattle Dragons and the XFL. And I got to say, guys, I think that this clip we're going to play from his latest Seat at the Table chat, it sounds to me like Ryan Gustafson, president of the Seattle Dragons, is going out there and saying already that Seattle is winning the battle for having the best XFL fans in the entire league.
Timothy asked, how are season ticket sales going? They're going awesome. We're really excited. Seattle is showing their support for this team more so than any other team, and obviously that is something that we are not surprised about. Seattle has the best fans in the world. We're actually going to be going on sale with season tickets here, like I mentioned last week, here in the next 2 weeks or so. Be on the lookout for more information, and absolutely go to xfl.com/tickets to place your deposit today. We want to make sure this stadium's full, and we so much appreciate our deposit holders today and look forward to having you pick your seats in the coming weeks.
More so than any other team. Brian, that is a direct shot at your LA Wildcats as far as I'm concerned.
And that might actually have data to support it, Brian. I mean, the deposits are going down. They do know those numbers. I don't think he would lie about that. Seattle has the most deposits, it sounds like. At least that's what their president seems to be alluding to. What do you think about that? I mean, we gotta rev this up, LA Wildcats.
Is that why he's doing Q&As online months after Heather Carrots has? Is that why he's doing team greets months after Heather Carrots? I mean, come on, this is everything that the LA team has been doing, and he's just trying to do it better. But really, I mean, no, this is just come on, bring it.
Would you consider buying 4 season tickets just to boost the numbers?
I may have already.
Oh, so
how many have you bought so far?
I just want
42.
Are you planning on buying?
I've bought one. I've bought one a week since they announced that LA would be a team.
All right,
you've bought one row.
Guys,
no, one ticket a week.
You guys know that Bryant's he's lying out of his teeth right now. Winston Moss gave you those tickets. He gave.
Yeah,
That's your best friend.
Never will I ever admit to such a thing. No, you know what? It's all fun and games here, but this is pretty cool what he's doing there. Is, saying these things. If they're true, that's great. I expect fully, and we've said it many times on this show, that Seattle is going to have some of the best fans, some of the most rocking fans. Are going to have a great stadium feel. We said that because of the Sounders, because of the Seahawks. I think DC is pretty close behind them as well. It just seems like that's going to be a great market to have some football in as well. And St. Louis. I think those are the three top markets if you really think about fan bases, and probably why season tickets are up. Those fan bases are going to be pumped, and they're going to be ready for the XFL in 2020.
I think we're going to see some legitimately awesome atmospheres in the XFL. I think we're going to see rocking crowds. We're going to see some packed venues for sure. Definitely in St. Louis and Seattle, I think definitely will support their team. But I want to kind of seriously approach this question, Vince. We could start with you. Do you think any team will actually have, in year one at least, a significant home field advantage because of these atmospheres, because of the fans that they bring into the buildings, because of the energy that they get in the very first season? Or do you think that's something that needs to build over time? Can a team have a true home field advantage in year one?
I mean, I suppose they could. It may be difficult to achieve that. I really got to study these venues a little bit more to say so. Now, Bryant, you mentioned DC. They're going to be playing in some sort of soccer stadium or something. With
field.
Yeah. So hopefully that means fans seats close to the action and not as many seats, an intimate environment. I think if you have something like that, you could. But you talked about St. Louis. They're going to be playing in a dome, a big barn, and I'll say from experience, 20 or 30,000 people showing up to a game, that may sound like a lot to you, but whenever you put them in a 60 or 70,000 seat stadium, it ain't that much.
Oh no, Alan, do you remember the Commanders games in the AAF with those same amount of people, same game? It was loud.
Exactly
it was
what I was thinking.
Were you there? What was it?
No,
loud?
but what are you talking about? Did you watch the game, Vince?
And also, even did you watch press conferences? I think I did. Watching AAF coverage, players even admitted legitimately that playing in San Antonio was pretty difficult for some offenses. It got loud in there. That is the thing about a dome, is even though the crowd, it might, there could be empty seats because it is such a bigger venue. Although I think St. Louis has a good shot at filling most of them. The noise level in a place like that, it doesn't take every seat being filled in order to make that a tough place to play. And so that's why I think if there's going to be, if I'm betting on any place to actually have a significant home field advantage, my money's on St. Louis, Bryant. I like the fact that it's a dome with the noise issue that could happen there. And also just the football hungry fans in St. Louis really have me thinking that place could be special when it comes to a true home field advantage. For the other teams, it's going to be something you're going to have to build, I think, over the course of multiple weeks through the season, or maybe even into year two.
You can define home field advantage in so many different ways. How I'm going to look at it is basically say, hey, regardless of what the team is doing, how is that fan base going to treat the opposing team? And I think St. Louis, before they move to LA, is going to be a great place for their fans to watch a game, and for a hard place for other teams to go in and try to compete.
I define home field advantage as a place that makes a quarterback fumble a snap or a pitcher drop the ball when he's walking on the mound after throwing a pitch. That's how I define home field advantage. How about you, Jake?
St. Louis, there's a lot of hype. I almost sense a lot of anger, in that city, and probably rightly so. But I mean, if you have to go,
why?
If I had to pick one, I still think I would say Seattle, just for the layout and the acoustics. I've never been there, but even if they don't even have to equal. If St. Louis has the highest attendance, they don't even have to equal that, I think, and they should still appear louder to opposing teams.
Pronouns, pal, maybe? So you're saying they, as in Seattle, doesn't have to have enough more
I don't
fans
think Seattle needs to have more fans than St. Louis, and they will still cause more trouble for the opposing team.
Once you have the white stripes bumping on the speakers, you really don't need any fans, right? It's just it's all about the atmosphere.
I think
Seattle has a
the
great
white stripes, don't they?
Yeah,
now?
pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much.
Can we actually? I don't know if this is a Patreon topic or what, but there are some songs I'd like to ban. If we're reimagining football, we need to ban some of the crowd music or PA music we're gonna play in the league. We gotta do something different from Sandstorm and White Stripes and Crazy Train. I mean,
you don't want to hear Hell's Bells on every 4th and Inches.
We gotta make it fresh. We gotta make it interesting and new and exciting in that regard. And I don't think that's too much to ask, is it, Vince?
No, not at all. That's Alan. We've always talked about that's a very satisfying job picking music for ball games, and that's part of the experience, getting the crowd hyped, getting them going. It'll be interesting to see how they interpret that and make it all family friendly at the same time.
All right, everybody ready, real quick, as a fun gimmick, pick one song that you want to hear that you probably don't normally hear at a football game.
Zombie by the Cranberries.
What team would that be played for?
Well, we don't have any zombies in the league. I don't know. I've been really lobbying for that for the Pitt Panthers to use, since Pittsburgh's the zombie capital of the world. But I guess you could do it. Maybe the New York Guardians could use it. I don't know. It's just, whoever, just someone play it. It's so cool. The whole crowd yelling "Zombie, zombie." I don't know. I love that song.
Yeah, I'd like to see songs that are unique to the area. So like up in Seattle, it's all grunge music, and then New York, all Frank Sinatra. And then
Alan, what about that song I sent you a couple days ago, maybe to play down in Dallas? That Jerry Reed tune. Vince would like that. I'll have to hit you up later, Vince. But it's a good, really good old country and western song.
Yeah, I think
tells a good story.
I do think a lot of Roughnecks were working on some oil rigs listening to "She Got the Gold Mine, I Got the Shaft" by Jerry Reed. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was going on.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. All right, we're gonna end on that note. Let's sorry for that bonus coverage.
No, it's tasteful. Listen to it, Brian.
Wait, we got into something there. That's definitely put a pin in that, Brian. That's a Patreon special for sure. Stadium music in the XFL. Love that. Also, Vince, as the official statistician, I think the way we can actually, let's take some data. When the season starts throughout the year, you need to chart all the away turnovers by teams, and that will maybe determine, at least help us decide who has the best home field advantage.
Yeah, we could look at, false start penalties and things of that nature.
Unforced fumbles is definitely a good one. If just crowd noise or atmosphere causes a fumble, that's going to be
maybe we could get a decibel level reading.
Well, they usually have those meters on the jumbo,
They always read red.
Always really honest.
I don't know if they're official or not, but
those are inflated similarly to a 10.
Hey, the decibel level's a decibel level. Okay, there, Vince.
I never been to a game where I wasn't part of a crowd that got that meter all the way to the red. I'm proud of that streak. All right. Well, home field advantage is really going to be something to strive for, but not necessarily something all the teams are going to be able to have, or at least most of the teams will be able to have, I think, in year one. That is something you really have to build towards. And credit to Brian Gustafson, the president. That's something the presidents are definitely going to be contributing to, getting enthusiasm And I love the idea of a seat at the table chat on Facebook. I know Heather Carrots has been doing those for a while. All the team presidents are getting interactive that way. So if you're in an XFL city or you're going to support one, definitely check out team Facebook pages and stuff like that, because they're doing cool stuff there. And we'll be, referencing them every now and then when cool quotes and questions come out. And I'd love to see the data there too. I mean, I want to know who's getting the most deposits. I don't know if we'll ever get to see that, but would be interesting to break down. Hey, football freaks, it's Alan. Just want to let you know about a brand new football podcast that myself, Vince, and his wife, Pam, started. We want more people to hop on board and start listening because we are talking college football on a national scale with a very extreme Pitt Panther bias. It's called the Hail to Pitt Podcast, and yes, we do focus a lot on the Pitt Panthers, but if you just want to hear us talk more football, if you want a place to go listen to some college football talk, check out the Hail to Pitt Podcast, available on all podcast platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, you name it, it's out there. Subscribe today, Hail to Pitt Podcast. It is brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts, and it is absolutely free of charge. Subscribe and review today. Hail to Pitt. Now, this is going to be so fun because we are going to return to something that Bryant worked really hard on a while back, and he worked so hard on it that not only did we do one full episode about it, we're going to do another full segment about it because it's now our turn. Vince, Jake, and all of our listeners we asked this week, schedule week number 1 in the XFL. Go ahead and do it. You got only about 30 seconds left to do it now because we're diving into it. We're looking back at Bryant's schedule he made because we have a little bit more information, and we all need to put it out there. What does week 1 look like in the XFL? It's this week's Hot Read.
Blue 58! Blue 58! Go! Hey, Ric Flair! Ric Flair! Pepper, Flip, Caliber. Motown, Happy, Jolly, Drunk, Buster, Boomer, Tiger! I think he's got a hound too, Rodney, I think. B-19! B-19 is fucking! Hey, Seattle! Ryan! Orange 83! Omaha!
So way back in, I don't even know. It was before the summer, wasn't it, Bryant? We asked you to schedule the entire dang old XFL season, and you did. And it had a lot of blowback. It had a lot of conversation going. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, schedule the XFL, they said. It'll be fun, they said. That's what everybody was telling me. So I did it. I think it was before the summer started, or maybe right at the beginning of the summer. I think it was before the showcases, actually. I went through and I scheduled out weeks 1 through 10 for all 8 teams. And all I got was flack from everybody, including you 3, about my schedule. So I thought it would be kind of cool to come back this time around because the schedule's supposedly coming out in the next week or so, or this month, next month. But regardless, let's schedule what week 1, the XFL's biggest week that's going to happen. Let's schedule it. And I'll recap mine real quick, Alan. I'm sorry I kind of took over here. Is that okay? I took the ball. I feel like this is not the XFL show, but
you did all the work on the schedule. Yeah, shine.
All right. So I'll throw my schedule out there real quick because nothing's changing on mine. I'm keeping mine the way it is. I have LA at St. Louis at the 2 p.m. Eastern game to start off the season. Then I have Houston at New York in the evening on Fox. Then on Sunday, I have DC at the Vipers on Fox at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then in the evening on Sunday, Dallas at Seattle. That was my schedule. I'm sticking to it. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
All right, I'm getting into it. You're sticking to your guns. I'm going with this. Sticking with what I've said all along. LA at Seattle, week number 1, first game you put out there. That's got to be the first thing we all watch. I cannot.
LA at Seattle? Sorry.
St. Louis. Jeez, okay. Jeez, oh man. Yeah, St. Louis. LA at St. Louis, week number 1. Winston Moss in the Dome, bringing his team against the St. Louis Battlehawks with that crowd that's going to be going berserk, and they're going to be soaring, they're going to be scoring. It's going to be an amazing way to kick off this league. The second game on that Saturday. Yeah, I don't know about in St. Louis. Maybe they'll do it in Seattle because that's my game number 2. I got Seattle hosting the Roughnecks. You've got Dragons and Roughnecks in Seattle, week number one, and we do know that the Roughnecks ballpark might not be done by week 1, so that makes sense there, I think. Tampa Bay at Houston for the first game on the Sunday of week 1, and I think that's a really interesting matchup as well, because you're talking about 2 former Canadian football coaches bringing it to the XFL in week number 1 in June Jones and Mark Trestman. And then my last game, I just want to see the New York Guardians playing under the lights so bad in week 1, hosting the DC Defenders. I think that'd be a great way to cap it all off.
Yeah, see, I like that. I think you and I kind of have the same. We were hitting the big markets. The only reason I have Tampa Bay hosting a game week 1 is I personally, and I could be 100% wrong on this, I feel like Tampa Bay's market may not support the team as well as the other ones. So you bring them in there early, try to get them hooked, because if you wait too long to bring them into Tampa, you might not hook as many fans as you could if you bring them in week 1. That's my thought. Who wants to go next? Vince or Jake? I'll let you guys go.
I'll go for it here. LA at Seattle, the first game. I think that's got to be, LA at St. Louis. Excuse me.
St. Louis.
Yeah. Maybe it should be LA at Seattle.
11. That's too early. Crack of dawn. Nobody gets up that early to watch football.
11 a.m. baby.
LA at St. Louis. First game, no doubt about it. Second game, I would have Dallas at Houston. A big Texas battle under the lights with Bob Stoops, which I still can't believe he's a coach in the XFL. Still can't believe
Your coach.
Then the following day, DC and New York squaring off. I would have New York at DC to get that big home atmosphere there, and then I would cap it off with Tampa at Seattle. I would try to showcase these big or what we expect to be good venues.
Yeah, I don't know about the approach though, Vince, with throwing rivalries out there, natural rivalries in terms of geography right away. I don't know if I want Dallas and Houston in week 1. I think we talked about this in the past, and I'm more leaning towards let that simmer and build up, and we can have some anticipation for that first matchup between the two teams, which for sure will be the most heated rivalry when it comes to just pure geography in the league.
I guess I could kind of buy that, but if you want to showcase, what this league's all about with the best fans and the best coaches, that's the game, I think.
Yeah, but Dallas and Houston's going to be so big that if you put them on week 3 when your numbers start declining, that's going to be one of those games that helps you keep those numbers up. That's how I saw it. I agree that if you want to start with a bang, definitely you want to do Dallas and Houston. I just don't know if you need that big of a bang week 1 when you might need it down the line in week 3.
Do you really think people are not going to watch and then they're going to be like, oh, man, Dallas and Houston are playing. I got to watch this game.
I do think that, especially in Dallas and Houston, I 100% think people would watch that game if it's week 3 versus week 1.
Especially when a bunch of Renegade fans are going into Houston and stealing things out of locker rooms and vandalizing the stadium. I mean, who knows what those Raising Hell Renegades are going to be doing in the build-up for that game. You want that thing you want the anticipation there. You want them to have a reason to hate each other and a build-up to that. I mean, what if they go into that game undefeated in week 3 or 4? That would make that so much better, wouldn't it, Vince?
I suppose, but I mean, they're probably going to play each other more than one time in the regular season. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to play twice. They are going to play twice, but I think if you do it like week 3 and week 7, week 8, somewhere in that range, I think you're setting up that rivalry for success. You don't see, well, I was going to say you don't see the Packers and Bears face in the week 1, but they did this season. But there was a reason. It was the 100th year anniversary.
Yeah.
So
they did last year. They did last year as well, though.
They did last year too. Okay, it was the 99-year anniversary. Jake, before you go, I just want to read a couple off of social media, if that's okay. Basically, everybody has their own little layout here, but I did want to go into some of the reasons. Tori Tori Buttlerang 1 says on Twitter that he wants to have Houston versus Dallas to start the season. 2 p.m. game on Saturday. Get things off with a bang. So Vince, he's definitely on your track. I also want to bring this one up by C Jersey Dave on Twitter. He says, I can actually see New York on the road for the first 3 weeks. And I assume that's a weather thing. Can we talk about the weather thing a little bit? Do we think the weather is going to affect New York and I guess DC to some degree in having home games to start the season?
I don't think you can have 3 on the road to start off.
No,
I think you got to have
unfair. Yeah, that'd be an unfair.
It isn't fair. It did happen a couple of times. It happened to the Enforcers. It happened, I think, even in the AAF, if I'm not mistaken, as well to somebody.
Well, so we're not trying to reproduce what happened in the AAF.
That's very true. For context, too, I'll just throw this out. For XFL in 2001, you had New York at Las Vegas, Chicago at Orlando for that first night, and then the next day you had Memphis at Birmingham, LA at San Francisco. So there's some context if that helps you, Jake. I don't know. You're the one left to go, so I'll let you go.
Yeah, I've been sitting back. I've been letting everybody else, say their piece, and I got to stick up for Vince here. I also have Dallas at Houston at week 1. As far as I'm concerned, let's go back to boxing mentality. The reason you book a fight is just so you can book a rematch. And you want this starting off on week 1 just so you can talk about all season. What's going to happen whenever Houston and Dallas hook up again in week 8? You want people to look forward to that all season.
So you have them kicking off the season in the morning on Saturday?
Oh, this doesn't really matter what time you play these games, but this is the correct seeding at least.
I don't know if boxing matches are booked for rematches, but maybe in a different era they were.
Isn't there a no rematch rule in boxing? Am I getting that confused?
Well, it depends on if you're the A side or not.
I definitely think we would say the Renegades are the A side in Dallas versus Houston as of right now, right?
Oh, they're the A side for the whole league as far as I'm concerned.
I'm scared.
So we got Dallas going to Houston. Outside of that, I don't see how you can't have New York and LA hosting in week 1, the biggest markets. I would keep people on their seaboard at least. I would have DC come to New York. I would have Seattle to come to LA. I mean, the Wildcats, they're just fuming after what the Seattle president said in that clip we played earlier.
You've been stealing our ideas, right? That's what I've been saying.
And then I think you have to have St. Louis host, and that place better be packed whenever those Vipers come into town.
Ooh, that's some pressure right there from Jake.
It's time to nut up or shut up.
We've talked a lot about the geography going into to the booking here of week 1, the scheduling. But what about players and storylines? I mean, the schedule should be coming out pretty soon, but who knows? Maybe players get drafted to teams before that. Would you think that kind of angle will factor in at all into the scheduling, Vince, or do you think that the timing, these schedules are getting sorted out before that is all settled?
I mean, maybe if you had 2 star quarterbacks that had a history against each other or something, maybe you pair those guys up in the first week. I don't know. I mean, but I don't think players are going to dictate scheduling. I don't see that.
Well, just
unless there's something very unique,
like stories that the league could sell, or the TV networks could. I don't know. I mean, then you also have to factor in stadium availability and all that. I'm sure that is way further down the line in terms of importance how you schedule week 1, but it's also something to consider. You'd want the best storylines going into your first week for sure.
I think the only storyline you need is that the XFL is back. I think this whole schedule...
That's well said, actually, Jake. You're right.
Already, honestly.
And to piggyback on that, the storyline for, week 2 and so forth is that this is a great product. It's a fun game to watch, and I want to see more of it.
Okay, but let's be frank about all this, though, honestly, is what would you give percentage-wise of the people that are following the league right now are actually going to be the percentage of viewers come 2020?
You mean people like us?
Well, yeah. So you have your diehards, you have us, you have some other people on the internet, but you also have people who know about the XFL, who know that it's coming. but I would say that those people in total probably around 30 to 40%. Most of the viewers that are coming in 2020 are either going to learn about the league come next year or definitely don't know about it right now.
So I would maybe even go lower. I might say we make up maybe 15 to 10% of the viewership. That the fan base is a lot. I don't even think we've tapped into it in terms of people following along on the road to 2020. As intently as some of the diehards are already. We love them, and those are the people that are going to ride through the whole season. But I think you're right when you say that the TV networks, and once the games start, that's going to expand the audience to such a way more massive amount of people than are currently following along with what's going on with the league.
Yeah, I mean, think about what time these games are going to be on in the middle of February. Not much to do, and people are going to be flicking through channels, and they're going to say, "Oh my God, there's some professional football," and hopefully they're saying, "Oh my God, this is fun to watch."
What if they're saying, "Oh my God, this looks like that UCLA Washington State game I saw last season"?
If they could get that every week, wow.
Ooh, you're in favor of this. Me and Alan talked off air about that slightly. Like, if you see, now for those that don't know, and I'm sure everybody does, but UCLA at Washington State, 67-63.
That's a big assumption.
67-63. UCLA beat Washington, came back from 32 points down in the second half, but that's not the point I'm trying.
Washington State,
UCLA.
Wazoo,
whatever. Wazoo, sure.
This was not collegiate men's basketball either.
No. This was not. This was football. So 67-63, basically over 50 points in the second half. Alan said this might be the football we see in the XFL come 2020. As it relates to ratings, is that a good thing or a bad thing for the XFL?
Well, that game was like 5 hours long, wasn't it? Didn't it go from like...
It was. It ended on Sunday.
Yeah, it did go from like 7 p.m. local time on the West Coast past midnight, which is like 3 a.m. on the East. In terms of the length, no. But just I was talking about the pace, the amount of scoring. That would be tremendous to see. And if you have over 100 points combined in each game, I mean, I'm pretty sure XFL
you don't
officials...
want to see that every week, though.
But then you're getting into the Arena Football League status, and that's not something you want. The Arena Football League was not how many times you could score the ball, it was how many times you could stop the other team. And really, it was if you stopped them once, you probably won the game. You don't want to get into that. What?
Or who's going to have the last possession before the...
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, so you really want to make sure you have controlled football. I think a game like that once in a while is okay, but you're right, Alan. In terms of the pace, in terms of the plays, I'm hoping that the XFL keeps up that pace. But the scoring, I don't want it to be 67-63 every week.
I mean, Vince, you'll remember that Pitt-Syracuse game a couple seasons ago. It was down to the wire, and I think everybody scored in the second half on almost every possession, but I don't want to see that 10 weeks in a row, do you?
Yes, I mean, that was getting a little out of hand, like 76 to 72 or something like that. I mean, just ridiculous stuff that you wouldn't expect to see in a professional football game.
Yeah, that might be tough to do, especially with 25-second game clocks, and I think a more controlled environment than some of those games have. I think we're going to see some high-scoring games, but not ridiculous every single week. If it's in the 50s every week, I got to say I wouldn't be upset. I think you could still play good defense because this league is going to be conducive to offense.
Yeah, it probably, the number of points, I don't think matters. It's the quality of the points that I think is what
good crisp football.
Interesting.
It's the quality of the points.
It is, because, and also, if the score is 51-50 every week, then people are going to have this perception that, they don't play defense or something like that, and they're not going to watch. But, if it's a back and forth competitive game that is fast paced, regardless of what the score is, it's going to be exciting.
Some would say that game is actually 5-1, 5-0, personally, Vince. But either way, going back to what I was trying to get at with this whole thing is, does that help ratings? It would probably help ratings for a while, but I think people would get tired of it. I'm hoping that that's not the kind of football we see, at least at the scoring. The pace I'm totally cool with, but if you try that pace and you have to punt the ball or you don't score, then that's actually probably better football. You want defense. Defense is something that I think is very important. I play defense. Alan, you play defense in high school as well. I think it's something that we really should focus on. But that we went from schedules to this. Any other feedback or anything like that on schedules?
Well, I think we should schedule the game that's going to be the closest and most competitive first. That's my final answer for week 1. That's what I'm hoping.
Alan, I just want to say, I mean, if people are thinking about a 51-50 game, that's probably just in their dreams.
Definitely in dreams for week 1.
You can't have the best of both worlds all the time. It may be good enough, but maybe it can be love for some people. I don't know.
Jeez.
Well, if you tell me why teams are scoring in the 50s. Could this be XFL football every single week? I'm going to say, yeah. I have a feeling we're going to see high octane, baby. Hal Mummy. Talking Bob Stoops. We're talking June Jones, Pep Hamilton, Kevin Gilbride. A lot of offensive-minded coaches. And then you've got Winston Moss, Bryant, who I know that's why you're touting the horn for defense. Week 1 is going to be so cool to watch. Actually, week 1, if we're talking defense versus offense, maybe you do Dallas versus LA right out the gates, and then this show just turns into a vicious fight right here on the podcast that week.
You can't. That's no. You're asking for the best of both worlds there, Alan. It's not. No.
I already did that bit.
Well, I think we could jump to another topic then. And, well, actually, no. I think we're out of time.
Was I not good enough? Is that what it is?
No, you do not make it work. Let's get out of here and head on out into the sunset, into another week where I'm hoping by next week we'll be closer to kickoff, Jake.
Yeah, if the good Lord blesses us, that way we will be.
I think that this was such a fun week because it was, I'm going to say, I think one of the last weeks we're just really super relaxed fit. We joked a lot this week, Vince, but there are going to be serious topics that we're going to have to seriously take a close look at. I mean, magnifying glass look at some of the things that are going to be coming down the line. When we alluded to a lot of them today, but when they become real announcements like timelines, that issue with signing players at training camps and whatnot is going to be even more crucial and more important to talk about when we're talking about roster sizes and how you whittle those down and how you approach those from team to team. And of course, Bryant's take on Team 9, Vince, a lot of serious stuff to come in the month of October, which we're about to hit. Last show of September right here.
Yeah, and I just hope one of these days we could get a rule book.
And don't forget the all-important rule book. Also, I don't think we mentioned it in that letter that came out. There was also a reference to a player handbook. We really need to get a hold of that. I don't know if that's the same kind of handbook they get in
I tried out. I don't know if you guys know this. So.
I don't know if it's the same kind of handbook they get in Beetlejuice, Jake, but I'm sure that's an interesting document as well.
Yeah, that may be for players only.
I'd love to get a look inside that handbook.
Well, this was, like I said, maybe one of the last relaxed fit weeks as October hits. Another month down on the road to 2020, and I really honestly feel we're in for one of the most fun months on the road as well. So we really appreciate everybody joining us up to this point, and just check that month off the list there. September down. Just think about it this way: this is the last September ever before the XFL is an actual football playing league, Bryant.
Now, is that confirmed by the league, or is that just...
No, that's just, I think, how calendars work.
Is that calendar math? Is that what? That's not called math. That's called calendar, from what I recall. Alan, I will say this as a party gift to everyone. I always say it at the end of the show, but I'll say it again. YouTube, go and follow us there. Subscribe. We're gonna have some great things for the draft planned and upcoming. Vince, I'm sure you're gonna break down every single player you can. Jake, you'll be there too, I'm sure, on YouTube for this draft. And we have tons coming up. The rule book. I think we're gonna do a reading of the rule book with Jake, if I'm not mistaken, on YouTube.
As soon as it's in my hands, absolutely.
Can you read it in an English accent, Jake? That'd be really nice.
No, I'm not even going to try.
Well, we'll try to get maybe a real-life Englishman to do it if you won't, though. I want it to sound dignified.
I think Bryant knows one. Maybe we can get a hold of him.
He's an Englishman too.
So don't forget all these things about to happen, all these things that are coming up on the road. We're going to be talking about them all right here. And like Brian said, the YouTube, it is a gift. It's a parting gift. It's something great for you to go check out because you got bonus content. You got shows spliced up there too. If you just want interviews or certain segments, the YouTube is a real fun place to interact if you don't want to just go through the main podcast feed. And of course, if you go to the Patreon, that's where you get it all in one place. And you could pick your tier, subscribe, and get all sorts of XFL and football talk. Or, we also do the NFL and college football there as well. Lots to do, lots of fun to have. We really appreciate you for joining us. And another show down. This was episode 88. I cannot believe it. And we are only 19 weeks away from kickoff in 2020. Follow us at XFL Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook to keep up with us throughout the week. And we'll see you next time. For Vince, for Bryant, for Jake, I'm Alan. This is the XFL Show. Remember,
they're listening.
Where football goes to be reborn. Where football goes to be reimagined. Where one goes to find more of what they need. A place with endless possibilities and hidden gems. A place where only one's limitations determine how much is explored. A place that gives you all the football you can handle and more. This is the XFL Show's Patreon, guiding you to February 2020.
Thanks for watching and listening, XFL fans. Don't forget to tell us what you think in the comments below, or even better, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things XFL. Check out some of our other videos and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at XFL Show. This is the XFL Show, is a production of Pretty Easy Podcasts.